My name is Kennedy. I've been married to Julian for 3 years. We get along well and live a joyful life. My husband is a wonderful and compassionate man, but his mother has been nagging me every day. She told us before we got married that she wanted to live with us, thus it is fine to live with her. When we first started living together, I assumed we had a solid connection. However, my father-in-law passed away 3 months ago, and our connection changed dramatically. Looking back, I feel my father-in-law served as a palliative care provider for my mother-in-law and me. After my father-in-law died, my mother-in-law started picking on me. My mother-in-law appears to rely on my husband, and her antagonism with me is unpleasant. Why did Julian select such a wife? When my spouse is not present, she repeats such harsh statements. At times like this, I'm grateful I have a job. If I were a full-time housewife, I'd have to deal with this sarcasm every day. If I could just tolerate it for less than an hour before my spouse returns home, I'd be free of the snoring. With this in mind, I decided to let it go without saying anything in particular to her. However, after an hour, I had had enough of the everyday moaning. I make dinner twice a week. However, as I'm making the lunch, my mother-in-law enters the kitchen and is constantly nagging me about what to do and how to do it. No, simmering dishes again today. Eva, do you dislike fried foods? Do not treat me like I am elderly. You previously stated that you disliked fried foods. Prior to that, you stated that you disliked stew. I never stated that. Has she developed dementia? But if I say that, the screeching will continue, so I'll make fried food. Fried fish would be ideal, something we don't have in the refrigerator anymore. I bet she checked ahead of time and said that. I understand. Then I'll ask Julian to get some fish. Wow, do you treat my son like a maid? He'll eat it too, so shouldn't he be allowed to have it? What I'm saying is that you make my son run errands. Okay, we'll have simmering vegetables today. I do not want to consume simmering vegetables. Then I'll use delivery today. Do not try to avoid your chores. I couldn't help but give a bitter smile. In the end, no matter what I proposed, my mother-in-law denied everything. And when my husband gets home, she eats all of the dishes she had rejected. What a pain in the asterisk asterisk. However, this is not the only thing my mother-in-law says. She also makes comments about our children. You've been married for 3 years, correct? Yes, it is correct. Grandchildren. Aren't you expecting my grandchildren yet? That is correct. Not now, not yet. Do not be silly. Please answer me correctly. Not yet. Within the past 3 years, yes, yes, yes. If a couple is unable to conceive children after 3 years of marriage, do they divorce? Yes, you understand what I mean. When will I see my grandchildren? I do not know. It's a gift, so isn't there something wrong with you? What? You have a condition, therefore you can't become pregnant or anything. So frustrating. Even though I've determined to ignore whatever she says, I still have to deal with her. Well, I get what she's saying, but only regarding this specific situation. My husband and I are not opposed to having children. Rather, we are constantly prepared to receive it. But there's nothing we can do because it doesn't come to us. We're both still quite busy at work, and we don't have much time to spend together right now. Even if my mother-in-law doesn't inform me, I am considering having a child. We're ready to have a baby at any time. From my mother-in-law's perspective, it will be her gorgeous son's child. I am sure she can't wait to see it, but aren't you too old to have a baby now? I doubt that you will have a healthy child. I only accept healthy children. I understand. I will make sure that the babies are healthy. Wait a minute. This has nothing to do with my son. Is he a huge part of it? She must realize she is doing something bad, so she does not want her son to know about this. So I haven't complained to my husband about his mother. He is genuinely concerned for his mother, who has lost her husband. My husband would be upset if he heard about this. Besides, I can still bury it. It is not as if she is violent or anything. I thought if I simply let things go for a year, everything would be okay. During this process, I discovered I was pregnant. My husband and I told my mother-in-law about it after I was stable. However, my mother-in-law had an incomprehensible expression on her face. I assumed she would be happy, so I was astonished to learn that she was not. The reason was that my sister-in-law became pregnant at the same time and was experiencing difficulties. She and her spouse were experiencing marital issues. They were about to divorce. What exactly was going on? My sister-in-law visited us the following day. What she told us was filled with shocks. My sister-in-law claims that her husband was unfaithful and abandoned the house, leaving his pregnant wife behind. She didn't know what to do. She returned to her parents' residence, relying on her mother. I believe going back to her parents' place is normal. However, there are a couple points I don't grasp. First and foremost, this is the home where my mother-in-law, husband, and I live. If she intends to reside here permanently, she should inform my husband, let alone me. Furthermore, if her husband had moved out, wouldn't it be better for my mother-in-law to assist her at her home until the baby was born? My hubby had the same thoughts. Hello, sis. I realize it has been difficult, but it would be good if you could say something to us. It's also our residence now. In my opinion, it was a perfectly logical statement, but my sister-in-law and mother-in-law disagreed. Your sister has gone through a lot. She was cheated on by her spouse, and after that, he abandoned her. Why don't you go to her home? Kennedy is also pregnant. It's not easy having two pregnant women in the house. I will back Kennedy. Why don't you go to her place and encourage her? I never know when he'll be back. Is it appropriate for me to leave my pregnancy in such a stressful state? No, I did not say that. You should have notified me before you came here. A lot was going on and I didn't have time for it. Besides, this is my parents' residence. Why do I need to ask for your permission? Do you remember what Dad said? This is also their current home. When you return, you must inform them that you are also returning. What? Did Dad die away? That is not valid. Well, there is no right or wrong. This is definitely my sister-in-law's parents' house. It's understandable that some people believe it's unnecessary to say it ahead of time, while others believe it is. So we began living with my sister-in-law in an uncomfortable environment. 1 week later, my mother-in-law became so fascinated with my sister-in-law that she stopped doing domestic tasks entirely. On top of that, she treats me, a pregnant lady, with disrespect. My mother-in-law would make breakfast while my husband was home, but I was in charge of all dinners. Not only that, but she compelled me to do so, rather than asking me. When my husband arrived home and ate dinner, he inquired whether I had made dinner again today. Yes, I did. It's been a week, correct? I told my spouse everything that had happened up to that day. He then walked to his mother's room, enraged. That is enough. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were both astonished. My husband opened the door and abruptly yelled at them. What are you saying right now? You've been busy with my sister for the last week. Why were you making Kennedy do all the supper preparation? It can't be helped. She's pregnant and it's difficult for her. Kennedy is also pregnant. Why aren't you helping her? You promised to support her the other day. Okay, I'll support her. Kennedy, do you mind if we stayed at your folks' house for a week or so? I plan to look for a new place to reside while we are there. That's okay. Thank you. So let's get ready straight immediately. Let me know what you need. I'll pack. Hearing this, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law panicked and stopped my husband. Hey, wait a minute. How about the cost of living? What will happen to the house and our living expenses while you are gone? I do not know. You must take care of themselves. I assumed we were doing well with Mom because Kennedy said nothing. But Mom, aren't you just being a jerk to Kennedy? I am an idiot for not noticing. But you are an even bigger asshole. Oh, come on. It's just some casual banter. Kennedy, I apologize for everything that has transpired. So please stay here. No, it's simply too hard. I cannot. Please be happy with your daughter. I'm expressing that I need you. Who do you believe will care for my daughter's kid after it is born? I believe your daughter, the child's mother, will care for it. No, you'll take care of it. So you'll just have to let it go this time. What the hell is she talking about? Do you want me to give up my child? Yes, I do. You are younger than my daughter. You still have the chance. Screw you, bitch. Wow, my hubby articulated exactly what I was thinking. Understood. I won't have your grandchildren. Oh well, I suppose you'll have to leave. I'm cutting ties with you all. Julian, you'd better watch yourself. When your sister is experiencing a difficult moment. Kennedy means more to me. Oh, you married a peculiar woman. Okay, fair enough. But Julian, whatever happens to me in the future, you will not be entitled to an inheritance. Okay? I do not want it. So we moved out of my mother-in-law's house and lived with my folks. We had originally planned to stay for a week. However, my folks encouraged us to relax till the baby was delivered. My husband appeared at ease and accepted their offer. The remainder of the period was really tranquil. We should have completed this earlier. I apologize for being inconsiderate. It's okay. It only occurred after your father died. It barely lasted a brief time. I'm so sorry. My husband appears to be so apologetic that he is in tears. No, I really did talk back to your mother. Really, it's fine. Besides, we now live a peaceful life. Let us look forward to the arrival of our child. Yeah, approximately 6 months after we started living with my parents, I received a call from my mother-in-law. I didn't have anything more to say, so I opted to answer the phone. Anyway, like I said, Kennedy, how are you? My mother-in-law phoned me to plead for money. She said she had some money saved up, but she couldn't withdraw it immediately because it isn't a time deposit, so she asked me to lend her some money for a while. I chose to ignore it for the time being. I hung up the phone before saying anything. I told my husband when he arrived home. He said she can't withdraw the money because it's a time deposit. I don't understand what she means. Anyway, I'm pregnant right now. I shouldn't be thinking about unnecessary things at this time. However, my mother-in-law was so desperate that she came to my parents' house. On a day like this, my husband and I were the only ones home. When my mother-in-law confirmed that my parents were not present, she was about to barge in. Wait a minute. This is Kennedy's parents' home. You can't just come in here. If you want to talk, start right here. I came all the way out here to speak with you. I did not invite you. I thought we had cut ties with you. Is it really that easy to cut ties? So I need you to lend me money. Impossible. Go home now. My husband treats my mother-in-law so badly. However, my mother-in-law refuses to leave the front door. Allow me to tell you the truth. So please lend me some money. And then my mother-in-law said something that did not surprise me. My sister-in-law told me that her husband had cheated on her and had left the house, but that was a lie. She cheated on him and became pregnant with someone who wasn't her husband, so she was divorced and kicked out of the house. Furthermore, her husband has demanded alimony from her. When my husband and I heard this story, we were not surprised but convinced. Despite the fact that we've only known each other for a short time, my sister-in-law's husband is a very gentle person. He would never throw out his wife, who was pregnant with his child. That is what she deserves. Why don't you ask the child's father for help? Well, he ran away. It's really perplexing. I'm not going to help her. I have no reason to help her. I will never forget what you told me. What have I said? My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are truly beyond help. You instructed Kennedy to give up the baby. I've already apologized for that. Besides, isn't growing up fun? My beautiful grandchild. Do not touch me. My mother-in-law attempted to place her hand on my protruding belly. I shook it off as hard as possible. Nothing is more offensive than being petted by a stranger. I apologized. Don't hold this against me. Sorry, Julian. May I? He nodded quietly. I can never forgive you for telling me to give up my child. You do nothing and then ask for assistance. Things don't work that way. Well, that's not them. Goodbye. My husband kicked my mother-in-law out and locked the front door. It's been 6 months since then. We only received a postcard from my mother-in-law informing us that my sister-in-law had given birth. We haven't communicated, so we don't know what's going on with my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and her child. But I'd like to think they're working hard for the child. Meanwhile, I successfully delivered my first child 5 months ago, a very sweet boy. Raising a child is often difficult, but with the help of my parents, he's growing up quickly. I will continue to guard this life for the sake of my child. A certain number of people can only think about themselves. Isn't it a sad thing? At any rate, I'm relieved that Kennedy and her family were able to flee from her in-laws. Please enjoy a peaceful life starting now.